will pay. So in that regard, it is very important that we pay attention to our financial commitments. Okay, today we are looking at money decisions, and money decisions are influenced by many factors. One of them is culture. Our cultures influence us in terms of how we make financial decisions. For instance, if you are from a cultural background where almost everybody has cows, you will be refocused and directed to work towards having cows in your community. And therefore, your spending decisions, your priorities will hinge on some of the cultural aspects. When we turn to emotions, emotions drive our money decisions. If you wake up in the morning and you feel like having a very exciting day, the emotion of an exciting day means that you may opt for a nice meal for lunch. If you wake up in the morning and your emotions are driving you towards going to the garden, it means you are likely to tend towards eating natural food. So colleagues, our emotions shape our decisions and therefore our reality. When we turn to habits, what we are used to tends to direct where we spend money to. For instance, if we are used to going to the gym, chances are that when you are going to town, you are likely to be looking at shops that have exercise items. And therefore, you will be prone to spending a reasonable amount of money towards exercise. And therefore, you are looking at shoes, you are looking at tracksuits, you are looking at exercise equipment and that kind of thing. So that becomes the focus of your spending. Then we have to look at biases. We have things that are behind our minds that influence us in terms of money decisions. These are basically things to do with how we think and believe in certain things. If you believe that you have to contribute to charity, then you will have some reasonable amount of money towards charity. If you believe that you have to educate yourself continuously, then you will be attending more webinars, you will be spending on books, you will be spending on courses, you will be spending on trainings. That becomes very important. Family influences how we make decisions. Your partner's preference tends to influence you to certain angle of decision making, and that becomes very important. Because if you realize that, then the engagement, the focus becomes very important so that you are not drifted away from your core focus. For instance, if your partner likes fish, there will be a tendency to have fish on the menu more regularly. If your partner likes you being smart, your partner will ensure that some reasonable amount of money is put towards clothing, which influences the money decisions around how you spend your money. Our focus will be on what financial commitments are, and then we'll go into why must we pay attention to financial commitments, and then delve into the types of financial commitments, and then straight away head into the inside money decision strategies. And then, of course, we'll have a discussion and then conclude. So what is a financial commitment? We are looking at a promise. You are looking at a guide towards making a payment. Now, we can commit at a future date, we can commit periodically, and we can commit on an ongoing basis. Now, turning to committing at a future date. Let's look at a loan, for instance. At the time you secure a loan, the loan has terms and conditions. Those conditions are, one, you will pay monthly or you will pay quarterly this specified amount of money. So you are committing by just signing that loan agreement that you will pay that amount every month or every quarter to the loan provider, who may be a bank or a money lender. So it's a promise to pay at a future date. We are looking at a promise to pay supplier. You will pass via the shop and pick some certain items, which certain items you will have to pay for later. So you are committing that you will make payment at a future date for the goods and services you have acquired. When we turn to periodically, we are looking at things you will pay for instance, in installments. When you commit to buy a piece of land, maybe you will deposit 50% of the amount towards that land, and then you will promise that you will pay the balance in certain installments, maybe 30% as the first installment, and then 10-10 to complete the final 100% if you had made a deposit of 50%. So that agreement becomes binding. You are promising to pay following those installments periodically. When we turn to fees, you are committing to pay the fees for your children either termly or on a semester basis. So at the time you select a school, you are saying, I'm willing and determined to pay for the fees the school charges. You are saying, I'm determined, even if they bring in a trip, I'm determined to pay for that trip for my child. There will be exceptions where you may fail because you have insufficient funds, but it's a commitment that you are going to pay periodically, and you must look forward in terms of, if you are saying you are going to be paying 1 million every term or every semester, and you have 3-4 children, then you must foresee how you are going to raise that money every 3 months, if it is a term, or every 6 months, if it is a semester. So it becomes periodical, that the obligations you have to meet are periodical in that context. So it's a commitment to pay periodically. So that at the time you make a decision, at the time you commit that I'm taking my child to school A, then it's the time you have actually determined and promised pay. When we turn to ongoing commitments, we are looking at things like utilities. This is water, electricity, internet, and so forth. You are saying, by renting a house, you are committing that you will pay for water that you will use. You are committing that you will pay for the electricity that you are going to use. You are committing that for you to access this webinar, you must have internet on your phone. If you look at this aspect in terms of a house, if you choose to build your own house, you are committing to make sure you have a security guard at your premises. You are committing that maybe you need dogs. You are committing that you need to maintain your compound, so you will have to hire somebody to look after your compound. All those become commitments because you have actually acquired a house. So the decision to acquire a house drives you to make promises to pay for certain obligations and services. The fact that you have a family and you are the head of the family, you have a commitment to provide upkeep, to ensure there is food, people can put on clothes, people can go to school. That becomes a commitment to look after, to care for your family. Let's now turn to why financial commitments matter. We commit towards meeting our expenses and needs. And some of these expenses are known and some are unknown to us. For instance, if you commit to buy a car, you are saying, I am willing to provide for the things the car requires. The car will require fuel, you will need a driving permit, you will need to repair it when it needs to be repaired. So those are fairly known expenses. The expenses that are known to you for the car is that you wake up in the morning and you want to start your car and the car cannot start. And therefore, you have to call a mechanic unexpectedly. That's an unknown. You are on your way to Mbarara or to Gulu and the car breaks down. You have to call in a mechanic, and that mechanic has to pay attention to the car, and the costs may not be known to you at the time. So we commit to known and unknown expenses, but it becomes very important to foresee some of the unknown in view of a contingency. Some money put aside for emergency towards unknown commitments that we may not anticipate to happen at a particular time. But if you have some provision to cater for some limited provision, then you will have somewhere to start from. One other example around meeting expenses is medical. Nobody knows when he or she is likely to fall sick. And therefore, you have to anticipate that at one time you may fall sick and therefore provide for some emergency fund. So you commit to provide some money towards unknown expenses such as emergency requirements. Let's turn to the need to handle financial responsibilities. We all have responsibilities to deal with certain obligations. Because we have that responsibility, we have to make commitments. We have to make financial decisions in time so that we are able to deal with specific obligations. For instance, you will know that Christmas is coming. And at Christmas, you normally slaughter maybe chicken or a goat. It's advisable that then you plan ahead and secure your goat or your chicken to be slaughtered at Christmas so that you don't reach Christmas Day and you are shocked that you have nothing to eat for Christmas. So it's a financial obligation that you anticipate to meet. And therefore, because it's your responsibility, you must foresee it, plan it, and then put it in your activity plan, and then go ahead and meet that obligation at the future date. So that commitment that I will have an enjoyable Christmas becomes a financial obligation, a financial responsibility that you have to undertake. Then you have responsibility to handle certain amounts and in certain periods. For instance, you know that the water bill comes monthly. For instance, you also know maybe a fair amount that you pay for your water bills. That becomes very important for you to anticipate and therefore perform your responsibility because you have a fair picture of the amounts and periods. I know the amounts that may surprise you in some periods, but if you have planned, then you significantly minimize the impact of such surprises. Let's turn to the efficiency with which we use our resources. When you have a mechanism for dealing with your financial commitments then indirectly you are developing a mechanism for using and utilizing your money efficiently. Because you anticipate certain things to be made at a certain time, it therefore calls you to plan. Planning therefore gives you a picture of what things you will need to be able to go through a month. If you are an employee, for instance, and you earn salary, then you must now divide your money to make sure that you have things that you must meet during the month, and maybe you have some money towards saving, toward investment. That becomes very important at planning level to facilitate efficient utilization of the money. Then it leads you to also into budgeting. Budgeting means that you anticipate the revenue you expect, and you also plan on how you will utilize it in terms of spending. So that at the time you are making the actual payment, the effective delivery using your ATM or using your wallet to pay is aligned with the things you have prioritized to spend on. It also becomes important to monitor. You have planned, you have budgeted. It becomes important then as you implement to monitor and control. You realize in some instances you have spent more. You realize in some instances you have spent less. You realize in some instances there are things that you had not anticipated but have come in. And then it gives you a picture on how to organize maybe in the subsequent month. So it becomes important that we look at financial commitments early so that we have a fair picture of what they are and therefore anticipating. Let's turn to the types of financial commitments. Here we are looking at the fixed, the variable, and discretionary. And we'll delve into each of them in a while. Let's look at the fixed. The fixed, we have things like rent. It becomes fixed in the context that you have a tenancy agreement with your landlord committing to pay a certain amount every month to your landlord. So the amount may be 500,000 a month, it may be 1 million, it may be 2 million, but it is fixed in that context. It can only change if you change that agreement, either by reducing the amount or by shifting in another house or by the landlord revisiting the tenancy agreement. So at the time the contract is valid, the amount is fixed. When we turn to the loan, we are looking at you committing to pay a certain amount every month to your bank or to your money lender to meet certain obligations, to meet your obligations as the loan agreement you signed. So it means that you have an obligation, a fixed responsibility to make sure you meet your own obligation at a specific time during the time the loan still exists. So it's important that you pay attention to those clauses, to the amounts you are supposed to pay, and even to a specific date, because it is fixed. Beyond it, interest charges and penalties are likely to be levied on you, and the loan will become more costly for you. We have discussed about fees. It's fixed in a sense that once you selected a school, then you have to pay that school fees for the school. So the commitment becomes very important to facilitate you to afford, to facilitate you to, in a flexible way, be able to pay fees. Because if you select a school that is far ahead of your limit, then it is likely that you will struggle to pay for the fees when it falls due. It's a fixed commitment, but you have no money to meet the specific requirements for the school. Let's turn to variable. Either things that can change as you commit. For instance, utilities. You have water. If you choose to harvest water at your house, then the water bill may significantly reduce. If you choose to reduce internet consumption by putting off some items that you have been spending internet on, then your internet consumption will significantly go down. If you go to electricity, if you have been leaving all the lights on, whether somebody is in the room or not, if you reduce and switch off some of those lights when they are not useful, then you will be able to save on that electricity and therefore be able to vary the consumption of your utilities. The same applies to groceries. If you change your menu at home, then a number of things will significantly change. You can also change how often you look at your wardrobe and maybe do replacement of certain clothes. It determines how variable you will spend on clothing. So it becomes very important that at commitment level, you need to be aware of the things you can vary, of the things that are fixed. Turning to discretionary, we are looking at things like entertainment. It's optional for you to go for entertainment in the evening or during the weekend. It's optional. It's not mandatory. It's optional to invest. So you can say, I'm investing this month, next month I'm not investing. I'm saving this month, next month I'm not saving. It's optional. Then it also involves life choices. The choices we make determine how we spend our money. It becomes very important that in deciding our life choices, we must have a view that we are making commitments that will end in monetary and financial terms. And those commitments will determine how we financially fare, either positively or negatively. So it's very important to appreciate the types of financial commitments, bearing in mind that there are those that are fixed, there are those that are variable, there are those that are discretionary in nature. Let's now head into inside money decision strategies. Let's straight away start with the first one, which is financial awareness. We are talking about knowledge, we are talking about skills, we are talking about competences in terms of finances. Anybody who has the competence, awareness, skills, and knowledge about how to attract, how to effectively use, how to grow, and how to protect money will commit money better than one who is not informed and who is not aware. And this is explained by several experts and gurus. And Warren Buffett, for instance, emphasized that the best investment you can make is in yourself. What does it mean? That the moment you are financially aware of how to attract, how to effectively use, how to grow, and how to protect your financial resource, then the chances are that you make well-informed decisions. So you have to begin with yourself. How are you in terms of financial knowledge, financial awareness, financial discipline, financial behaviors, financial practices that you perform on an ongoing basis? Your awareness becomes critical in shaping how your money is directed, because we have already hinted that money is spent at commitment, money is spent at decision, not at the time you effectively pay for the good or service. So if the process that leads you to make a commitment is well informed, then the chances are that you are likely to make very good financial decisions. When we look at Charles Jaffe says, it is not your salary that makes you rich. It is your spending habits that does so. I will illustrate this with some examples. If you earn 1 million, for instance, but spend 800,000 every month, and you have 200,000 towards saving and investment, and another person earns 2 million, but spends 2.2 million every month, whom do you think will be better in 6 months, in 1 year, in 2 years, in 3 years? I guess the answer is obvious. The one who is able to put aside some money towards growth and improvement needs, he will be better over a long period of time. Because the other one will actually be in debt almost every month. He will be struggling to meet the obligations as they keep growing, because you will not pay the money for the subsequent month, then the subsequent month, and it will become routine, and it will be very challenging for you to meet the obligation. Let's turn to financial planning. And the financial planning is emphasized by Alan Lacaine, that planning is bringing the future into the present so that you can do something about it now. So you are saying, I'm looking at the future. What do I want to see in my future? The future can be 3 months, can be 6 months, can be 1 year, can be 5 years, can be 10 years, can be 20 years, can even be 50 years. What am I trying to see for my life in the future? And then bringing it now and start to influence the actions to influence that future that you are looking forward to. If you are working towards being a smart person, if you are working towards being a very good communicator, then there are things that you start to plan now and you financially start to commit to make sure that you achieve your end result. So planning becomes very important, and it's an important aspect to commit to influence how you will fare in the future. When we turn to financial actions, whatever we become aware of, whatever we plan, has to finally be implemented. It can only be implemented through taking consistent, appropriate actions. And these actions can be at how you attract, they can be at how you grow your finances, they can be at how you effectively use, they can be at how you protect your financial resources. And this is why Bertolt Brecht emphasizes that to acquire money requires valor, to keep money requires prudence, and to spend money well is an art. So you must look at the mechanisms for acquiring money in terms of the actions you are going to take to ensure that you can attract money to yourself. You have to look at the actions you are going to take, and I want to emphasize, consistently, to keep that money with prudence. You must look at actions you must take consistently to use and utilize money well. That being an art, it means that you are building habits towards effective utilization of your resources. Habits, discipline, practices that will drive your effective use of resources. Now, when you start from the awareness, you go to the planning, you go to taking actions, then you will finally have to make decisions around financial control. Financial control basically looks at the mechanisms in place to monitor, to check, and to test whether what you put in place from the knowledge, from the planning, from taking action have been implemented consistently. And if there are any changes, you are able then to correct them and make provisions for becoming better next time. For instance, if you had planned that within the next 2 years, I would have put money aside towards purchasing a piece of land. Now it comes 2 years, you have to evaluate and see whether you have actually moved towards achieving your plan of procuring a piece of land. So that becomes very, very important. So control is a key commitment strategy that you must commit to monitoring how you fare with your finances. And Henry Wheeler Shaw emphasized that debt is like any other trap. It is enough. Debt is like any other trap. Is enough to trap you into it and hard enough to get out of. So once you are in the trap of consistent debt, at the time of attracting debt, at the time of enjoying the debt, at the time of it becoming routine, it becomes challenging for you to easily get out of that debt. What am I trying to say here? The point here is the opportunities for accessing resources have increased to an extent that it is very easy to call and you get some money on your phone, but you have to pay for it. It's now easy to pass through a shop and you say, I want this TV and I will pay for it. You deposit something, they give you the TV, you take it away. But the question is, have you built capacity to pay for all those things you are acquiring? Because if you have not, then you will go into a cycle that becomes repetitive and therefore you cannot control. And the costs around you not controlling will overshadow you and become challenged with the financial situation around you. I want to end this session with emphasis on a few aspects. Number one is that we spend money at commitment, not when we pull out money to pay. We spend money at commitment, not when we pull out money to pay. It becomes very, very important to make sure that we are aware that the most important decision is at commitment, not when we are actually pulling money. For instance, when you are planning for a trip, for a holiday, you are looking at some airtime to search for the places to go to, internet, you are calling friends to inquire the things that are around the places you want to visit. All that is money. There are costs that you will incur while you're traveling. There are costs post the travel. So the commitment that I'm going to travel already has specific costs that we are going to meet. We commit money knowingly or unknowingly. There are things I've observed that you make a decision to move from a lower cost unit to a slightly better apartment, and you, without realizing that there are many things that you have to actually change. For instance, the curtains you had will not be sufficient, they may be short, they may not even be up to date to the new house you have gone to, the furniture, and so on. So by just making a decision to shift from one house to another, there are many unknown costs that you are likely to incur. So you must have a perspective of that total aspect of the commitment you are going to make around changing the house you have been living in. Awareness is a powerful tool to change our financial lives. When you are financially aware, there are things that you cannot participate in, that you cannot get involved in. There are things that you will minimize your participation in. But when you are not aware, you will participate in them unknowingly without knowing the full extent of the impact of such actions. We cannot improve the way we commit. It means that if all of us put efforts to changing how we commit our finances, how we make decisions around our finances, then we make progress towards improving our financial lives. I want to leave you with a quote by Bob Bryant that you can make money in two ways, either by making more or spending less. If you know any other method of making money, tell me. Bob Bryant says there are two: make more or spend less, and you will enjoy yourself. I thank you so much for listening to me. I hand over to you, moderator, Dr. Robinson Ogwanga. Thank you, the audience, for your attention.
Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together in thanking Dr. Charles Barugahare for this informative and wonderful presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now our moment to ask questions about financial commitments. It has been clear, practically demonstrated with local examples, but from your questions, we can get more and more from Dr. Charles. Dr. Charles, as we wait for questions, Richard on the chat room, very happy with the presentation and requesting to know where I can find more literature about financial commitment to read.
Okay. Richard, thank you so much for that question. One of the sources of literature is the book Navigating the Financial Path, the 30-Day Personal Finance Improvement Challenge, where a whole chapter is dedicated to financial commitments, where you can enhance and expand your knowledge on financial commitments. But there is literature in various books that you can access. If you go to Mr. Google and search financial commitments, you'll pull out a number of literature that you can actually utilize and enjoy. It's an important aspect that we all have to pay attention to, because we commit knowingly and unknowingly, and sometimes that's the time we actually decide on what to pay, whether we have the money or not. I thank you.
The discussion is getting very interesting, and Florence also in the chat room. Financial commitment versus emergency expenditures is a challenge that we normally experience and puts one into unplanned debt. What is your guidance to committing to unforeseen and unavoidable expenditures? Dr. Charles.
Thank you so much for the question. It's important that we can deal with the known financial commitments easily. It's not easy to deal with unknown financial commitments, but the guidance I can give is that we need to gradually build a contingency towards the unknown. It may not be bulletproof, but if you are building your contingency gradually, at the time the unknown expense comes, then you have some money to start from. And that helps you to easily get out of that unknown expenditure that you had not anticipated, that you had not planned, but that has come through. Nobody will plan for falling sick, for instance. But when you have put your money towards the insurance, medical insurance, then when you fall sick, then insurance takes care of that. Nobody plans that the car will break down, but if you have put some money towards car maintenance that you are putting aside, then when the car breaks down, then you are able to call upon it. The magnitude of the breakdown may be more than what you have put aside, but you are better than that one who had no money put aside towards repair of that particular car. So it is very important that we put some money towards contingency, towards emergency gradually, and it's something we can build over time. It's not something that you wake up and have a full-blown emergency fund around you. No, it's some small money put aside gradually, and sometimes it may be wiped out, sometimes it may stay for some time. So it is important that we put some money towards the unknown, towards what we call the emergencies.
Thank you very much, Dr. Charles. Another question from the chat room, whether it's possible to share the presentation slide for this financial webinar series.
Thank you. The slides and the whole presentation in terms of the whole webinar, including the voice and including the video, will be on our YouTube channel and on the website, and all the other previous webinars and the PowerPoint presentations are on the site. They can be accessed. It's www.FinanceLIP.org on our website. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Charles. The reference book is Navigating the Financial Path, the 30-Day Personal Finance Improvement Challenge by Dr. Charles Balgare. You can find that book. Dr. Charles, very interesting conversation, a lot of information, a lot of learning, a lot of areas for self-improvement, implementation. We spend money at commitment, not when we put out money, not when we pull out money to pay. We spend money at commitment, not when we pull out money to pay. And you have given us important tools to navigate some of these challenges so that we are not exposed. One of which is planning. Dr. Charles, at a personal level, there could be a lot of challenges at the planning. The information to consider, what you need to prioritize in the plan. With your experience as somebody who have mentored business leaders, business owners, at times people at a personal level, people are not free with information because they know the economy is liberalized and the information you give out may be taken advantage of. And so people don't come out to be supported in planning. with your experience as a mentor and as a financial advisor, how do you go about this? I think this is interesting for participants in this webinar.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for the question around the financial planning. The aspect around financial planning begins, like I said, from the awareness. The informed mind in this context, informed around finances, drives the type of plan you are actually going to have. If, for instance, you don't have an idea of how money flows into your pocket, then it is very hard to plan for how you are going to spend that money. I interact with some people and somebody tells you, I earn 1 million shillings, but when I check, I find I have spent about 1.7 million shillings. And I asked him, do you have debt? He says, no. That actually means that person earns around 1.7 million. Is through other forms, but he sees one formal source of earning 1 million. And therefore, planning is only informed to the level you appreciate finances. And there are 4 aspects that you have to be informed about to be able to have a good financial plan. The first is the aspect around attraction, the aspect around your income sources, that you understand fully how your money flows in, how much flows in, how often flows in, and therefore you have a good understanding of that resource of income. The second is the aspect around how you utilize the money. Once the money comes in, it's around the issues of discipline. It's around the issues of your habits, because our expenditures are influenced by our habits and our decisions around what we prioritize in terms of mind to focus on, because it starts from the mind and ends up into actual execution as a payment. So the issue of you being financially aware of your priorities in terms of the do's and don'ts. There is somebody whom you tell and they say, can we go out for a dinner? You tell it's not in my priority. Bored as that and as that. So the aspect of being aware and strong in certain terms becomes very critical in shaping how you effectively use money. The third area that you need to be aware about is the aspect of growing. You must learn and be informed about how to grow and improve on the money you already have. Because anything that does not grow eventually dies. So if you earn money and part of it is not actually put into production to create more money, then it will reach a time when you cannot actually survive. So it becomes important that you are financially aware to influence your planning. Then the last one is you must be financially aware about how to protect, the issue of protection. You may attract, you may grow, but if you don't protect, then that resource may go into things that are very risky abruptly, and all of a sudden you are wiped out. So you must be financially aware. You must spend some time to improve our financial knowledge. It's that knowledge that will influence our quality and kind of plan that we can execute.
Thank you very much, facilitator, Dr. Charles Balgare. The presenter. There's a question. Good morning, doctor. Can you explain on financial control?
Okay.
Another chat room question.
Okay, I see comments on the chat room, and I appreciate them. The issue around financial control is basically appreciating the aspects of being able to monitor and being able to check. So financial control is about monitoring, is about checking how you are performing in terms of what you had planned and what you have achieved in your plan. That comparison, that ability to check and therefore influence the plan, and number two, the actions you are going to change around how you use money is basically the whole aspect of control. Checking, monitoring, and testing how your plans, how your actions around the money are functioning.
Yes, Dr. Charles, very good. Thank you so much. In the little time left, especially with very tough economic time, financial commitments brings the aspect of how can one make more money while committing less. It's a question in the mind of everyone. And
I beg your pardon, doctor?
How can one make money in a financial situation as difficult as it is globally, and yet while committing less, yet at times through commitment, you make more?
Thank you, thank you. It's a broad question, very wide, but I want to refer you to the last quote that I shared, which is, you can make money in two ways: earn more or spend less. So it means that we must look at means and ways of attraction. And the first way of improving attraction is improving the quality and value in us. What value do I possess, do you possess, that can potentially attract money? That's the first thing, to begin with you. If you as an individual has enhanced in terms of skills, in terms of what you can offer to the market, or in terms of a good and service, in terms of the quality of that good or service, in terms of reasonable quantity of that good or service, then you can attract some money. So to begin with, we must look at ourselves and see how can we enhance the quality of ourselves to begin attracting money. The second is to spend less. If you have been earning 1 million and you choose to spend 700,000, indirectly you have earned 300,000. But if you have been earning 1 million and you spend 1.3, indirectly you are going into a crisis of 300,000 every month. So it's, for me, in short, it's understanding those two things, to learn and pay attention on how to attract more, and on putting effort to spend less, and therefore utilize the other for both growth and enhancement needs of your financial growth.
Thank you very much. Make more, spend less. And Billy hand is up. Billy, please speak up. Billy, you have raised your hand. Please speak. It seems we have lost Billy. Dr. Charles, could you please give us your closing remarks?
Okay. Thank you so much, our audience, for joining us this morning. I know waking up at before 7 to join us at 7 is challenging, but thank you for sparing time to join us in this morning session. Thank you also for your active participation, the engagements that we have had this morning contribute to the improvement around our finances, and therefore it becomes critical to pay attention to this knowledge that we regularly share. Our next webinar will be shared in due course, and it will be about how to reorganize our expenses. It will be about how to reorganize our expenses. And it will be, if you check the calendar, I think on 27th of this month, where we'll be paying attention to how to reorganize our expenses. For those who have joined in for the first time, again, thank you. For those who have been with us on this journey, we are glad that you are continuing to participate in this engagement. We look forward to your feedback. We look forward to your more engagements, and we'll have more. We promise to give you more during the next webinars that are upcoming. Thank you so much, and enjoy your morning. It is working time, so let's get back to work. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Charles Balgare, for this wonderful, informative session. Let's put our hands together in thanking Dr. Charles Balgare. Good day, and God bless all of us.
Thank you so much, team, and enjoy your day.
Thank you. Goodbye. Thank you.